Hey, what's up? This is Jordan Harris. Welcome back to The Mediocre Millionaire. This is the channel that proves that anybody can become a millionaire, even simple, regular, ordinary people like me. Sometimes on this channel, we go over some of the stories and some of the lessons that I've had to learn through business, which I want to do today. So I'll be talking about the two biggest mistakes that I've made in my short professional career. I've been in business since 2015, so only about 8 years or so, but I do have some pretty crazy stories here and there. So today we'll talk about the two biggest mistakes that I actually made in business. Everything that I've learned through trial and error, and my goal is to help you all not have to go through all of those headaches and heartbreaks that I had to. I'm hoping that you just learn from the mistakes that I did, all the mistakes that I've made, and you'll have a much smoother progression. So let's talk about the first story. This is back when I was just getting started. I think it was like my second or third year in business. I had just started getting some pretty good accounts in my janitorial company, and it was time for me to start hiring people to do the work for me because I couldn't get around and clean all the buildings myself anymore. So when you start a business, you can make a decision on hiring employees or hiring contractors. It's a big difference. So whenever you hire employees, you measure how many hours they work every week, and then you pay them an hourly base. So if they work 10 hours and they make $10 per hour, then you pay them $100. You owe them $100. But then you have to withhold some of the money for taxes. So if you're owed $100, then the government would say, Jordan Harris, you own the company, so you withhold $20 from that $100 payment and send that to us, right? So $80 would go to the worker, and then $20 would be withheld by me and then sent to the government. Okay, so that's how employees work. Contractors, give an example on that is, let's say I was getting paid $500 per week to clean a certain building. I would pay a contractor a flat fee of $400 every week, no matter how many hours they worked. So if they worked 10 hours, they still get paid the full 40 or the full 400. If they worked 80 hours, they still get paid 400. I don't check their hours. I don't tell them when to be there. I don't train them. I don't do any of that stuff. They are a separate contractor that works for themselves. They just get paid through my company, okay? With that type of situation, you don't pay, or I don't pay taxes. The contractor is responsible for paying their own taxes. Does that make sense? Okay, so I decided, since I was brand new in this hiring thing and I had no idea how to use QuickBooks or any type of payroll system, I figured to make it easier on myself, especially in my first couple years, I'll just use contractors to do the work for me. So I had like 7 or 8 contractors running all over the city cleaning these different buildings, and things went pretty well that first year. I sent in my tax return, or I sent in my tax information. My accountant did all that stuff. Tax payment was pretty low. That was cool. But then I got surprised like a couple months later when I got a letter in the mail from the state of Kansas. And I will tell you, like this is where I live in the state of Kansas, obviously, and I do business here. But I will tell you, if the government can get you, they will get you 100% of the time. Just know that. That's trial and error for me. There you go. That's a free one. But got the letter in the mail from the state of Kansas, and they were saying that I needed to pay taxes on the employees that I had. And my thought was, I don't have employees, I have contractors. They're doing the work for me, so I don't pay their taxes. I'm like, talk to those contractors if you haven't gotten tax payments from them, because they're responsible for that. So I had to go and have some type of hearing, I guess you would call it, where I had to sit and like speak to somebody that worked for the state of Kansas, and they did all of like the labor laws and all that stuff. I had to sit and answer all these questions, and then I just finally broke it down like, okay, when you start a business and you're hiring people, you can have employees or contractors. I chose to use contractors. I pay them a flat fee. I don't tell them when to show up to work. I don't train them. I don't do any of that stuff. They're contractors. And she kept saying, Jordan, I don't know. I'm pretty sure you've got an employee situation here. I'm pretty sure they're employees. She just was not trying to hear anything I was talking about, which was pretty irritating, but whatever. So I left that pretty irritated because she just seemed like she wasn't hearing what I was talking about. But then about a month later, I got a response from the meeting that I had. And the response said, we've determined that you actually don't have contractors, you have employees, and you owe us for all of the hours that each of these contractors worked throughout the year. So it was a nice little bill for $13,000 that I had to pay. And it's not like I could have gone and taken some of that money back from the contractors and say, I should have been withholding this money, so give this money back to me. Like, no, they were long gone. So I had to fork over $13,000 out of my own savings account. And mind you, I had just gotten started in business, so $13,000 was a whole lot of money to me back. It was a whole lot of money to me then. So I thought I had a pretty good year that year, but turns out that slashed my profits by like, I don't know, let's say if I was at 100% profit, it probably knocked my profit all the way down to like 13%. Or 12%. It was terrible. It killed my whole profit for the year. Emptied out my savings and everything. It was bad. So that was the one mistake that I made, which really is hard to fault myself for it. I really blame the state of Kansas because they saw an opportunity to get me and they did. So that's just, it is what it is. You just live and learn. But what I've learned from that is be upfront with the state of Kansas and with your state and tell them what you're going to be doing, and then get that in writing. Like I should have gone to them and said, hey y'all, before I get started hiring people, I'm hiring contractors. These are the rules that I'm having for them. Is that cool? And then if they say yes, have them put it in writing saying, yes, Jordan Harris with this company, Dream Clean, they're going to be hiring contractors. These are not employees. These are the different stipulations between employees and contractors. Jordan's going to follow these rules, and he's not going to have to pay taxes because he's following those rules. So that's what I should have done differently. All right, so that's the first story. That's the first mistake that I did. The second biggest mistake that I've ever made in my career, a lot of you have probably heard the phrase that mixing family and business is kind of like mixing water and oil. They just don't mix. In a lot of cases, that is true. So some of you know that I work with my brother Lance. He's my business partner with my janitorial company. And then I work with my wife and my mother-in-law in the preschools that we own. So we all get along really well. We all have a similar work ethic. We all have a similar long goal. Like we know what we want to do the next 5 years, the next 20 years, the next 50 years. We know where the businesses are going to go because we have that same mindset. So I ended up bringing on, whenever we started the preschools, my wife and I, or I should say my wife owned a preschool in our house. And then we had someone who wanted to, we were going to start a daycare center instead of a daycare in our house. We wanted to actually get a daycare center, like a big one, right? Like we have today. So we were looking and we actually found a location that was perfect. And my wife and I could have gone and done it ourselves, but we like to look out for family. We like to be, a blessing to others. We believe that we're we believe that we're blessed to bless other people. So we saw an opportunity to be able to do business with someone who was close to us. And we were like, okay, instead of doing this daycare thing ourselves, why don't we include this other person, bring her on, and it'll be multiple owners in the business. It'll be me, my wife, my mother-in-law, and this other person. So I didn't charge. I fronted all the money to get the business up and going. I fronted all the money to pay the employees to begin with. I fronted all the money to pay for all the equipment and all the toys to get the daycare up and going. I fronted the money for the rent in the beginning. And then I also negotiated the entire contract with the church that we were leasing the space from. So as you can tell, I created the logo, I created the website, I did all that stuff. This other partner, of course my wife, she was working on things nonstop too. She was doing the curriculum and all that stuff. So this partner of ours, she had a different mindset. She didn't have the go-getter mindset that my wife and I have. We knew it from the beginning. But after a year or two, it really started to be this glaring issue between she and the rest of the partners. We didn't charge, or we didn't have, a lot of times whenever you start a business, everyone has to pay like a certain amount to get into the business. So we like assume that you need $20,000 to start and you have 4 partners, everybody puts in $5,000 to start. And that's how you buy into that 25% of ownership. Well, instead of doing that, we gifted ownership to this partner. We just said, hey, you're cool, we like you, we're gonna go ahead and just gift you, I think it was 24% of this business, right? So that was the dumbest decision I've ever done in my life. Long story short, after a few years, we decided that this is just not gonna work. So we had to buy this partner out. We couldn't fire her because she owned the company. She was a 24% owner of the company. So we had to buy her out, which was the only way to get her out. We had to vote as a team, and then we had to buy her out. So we had to go through all these different attorneys and all these different just people who could tell you like how the buyout process goes, because we had no idea. And we had to have someone come out and do a business valuation on the company. And whatever that business valuation was, she got 24% of it. We had to just pay her 24%. So I had to sign a document that keeps me from telling you how much this ended up costing me, but just know that I have to send a check to her for the next 3 years for a few $1,000s every month. Ended up, I can't tell you how much it is, but it's 6 figures over the 3 years. It's well beyond 6 figures over 3 years. So gifting a friend of the family a piece of the business was the other terrible, stupid, dumb decision that I've ever made. So if you are going to be working with family, like I'm a big family person. I love working with my brother. I love working with my wifey. We all get along really well. I think it's cool for people to work with their family. But know that before you do that, know that you have a similar mindset when it comes to work ethic and when it comes to like how often you want to get paid or how much you want to get paid, how fast. If you both have the mindset of I want to get rich or I love kids and I want to pour into kids, like make sure that you understand everyone's game before you get into the same business. If you're not all equal on that, then do not start a business with that person, because I promise you're in the same boat as me, where you're paying somebody over 6 figures and they didn't pay $1 to get into the business. So big loss, but it's part of the game. So once again, those are the 2 mistakes that I've made. Please, and if you have any mistakes that you've made in business, I'd be happy to read about those in the comment section. I'd be really interested in knowing what those mistakes are. I'm sure you could probably teach me some of the things that I shouldn't do in my business. So as always, please do like and subscribe to the channel. That helps always. But as always, we appreciate the time. God bless. Take care. Peace.